Hi, Mike's Carburetor Parts. I've been working on this Autolite 4300 4-barrel now, and we're putting it back together. I want to show you how to put it back together. I did this video over several days. I wanted to verify each step, make sure that I was doing it right and I didn't lead you astray. Some of it I had to go back and redo. But anyway, this is the result, and so I hope it's helpful to you. The 4300 is not one of the easier carburetors to rebuild. So take your time, take lots of pictures when you take it apart. I refer to my disassembly video. I'll put the link to it down in the description. And so let's put it on the Dashpot. I found out that it's easier to put it in now before we put the bowl on, because you won't be able to get to the screw otherwise. Now this one has a threaded hole. Some of these have just a screw and a nut that go on it, goes through a hole, and either way is okay. That'll be pretty obvious. I got my return spring in there already in that hole. That's where the return spring is going to end up. Okay, so that's the Dashpot. And we could probably adjust it while it's here. Make sure the throttle's closed. Choke off. Alright. So what you're looking for is, oh, choke keeps going on, is what you want to do is you want the throttle to hit the end of the Dashpot, and then have the Dashpot have it retract the stem. Okay, so it hits it, and then all the Dashpot does is slow down the closing of the valve so that the extra gas that's in the manifold will burn. The first thing we're going to do is put the float bowl, connect it to the throttle body, and first we'll situate the gasket. Now you got to be careful, because if you get it like turned around this way, it goes on. You think it fits, but here's an open space right here, which will leak probably vacuum. So just want to be sure that it's not leaving any open space, and it's not covering up a necessary hole like this one. If it was covered, that'd be a mistake. This in here is just from casting, and well, there's actually a feed through this hole anyway, so I'm not sure where that goes, but anyway, so we're good there. Carefully look and make sure. Now sometimes I use spray lubricant, silicone spray lubricant on these gaskets, and keeps them pliable, especially if you're going to have a carburetor taken apart several times, which I probably will do in this one. And we will, that's a secondary because the holes are bigger, so I can tell it's going this way because the secondary valves are bigger. And we'll put it on here like so. Get a couple screws started here. So you always want to tighten in like a crisscross manner, so as not to tighten one side down too much and work the throttle body. I didn't on this one, but normally I take a flat file and run it across here. You'll probably find that where the bolts are here is probably going to be some high spots, so you might want to file it a little bit to get as flat as possible so you don't have any vacuum leaks. Don't put any gasket sealer on here. It'll end up in your engine or in the carburetor itself, so we suggest you don't use anything like that. And chances are anything you use won't hold up to gasoline. So there you go. So I got this behemoth screwdriver, and by the way, the size of the jet is stamped on the side, and it'll say something like 53F. That means it's 0.053. And so we don't damage the jet, I'll use a nice wide screwdriver. So the main part of the jet that matters is the center where the hole is. So if you nick the outside a little bit, I wouldn't worry about it too much. It's the hole that matters. If it's damaged in any way, the gas won't flow through it like it should. Try to keep my arms out of the way, but I have to actually touch it, you know. Okay, get started there. Don't use any WD-40 around your carburetor. I know you may have a tendency to do so. That seems to be bad on some gaskets. Causes them to leak. Okay. Don't use any kind of a gasket sealer. There's a few cases that you may have to, but in general. Now I'm going to put in the power valve here. Make sure this moves freely. So what happens here is at idle and at full vacuum, the power piston pulls up and allows this to close, so you don't have extra gas going in. And as you accelerate and you lose vacuum, the power piston will drop down and open this up so that extra gas will flow into the main channel there. Okay, so this takes a 3/8 deep socket, no gasket on it. Okay, put that over here for a minute. And we're going to put in the needle and seat, or at least the seat, the main seat, which will go right in here. It does have a gasket. Probably won't put the needle in quite yet. We'll put this in. Let's see, that's too big. Seven 16th wrench that takes. Okay. Now you have a secondary seat here that I always like to put it in there. A lot of people suggest you don't, and we do have a secondary seat plug that goes in here available. This one had one in it, and unless you're having trouble with it flooding, and what this does, lets extra gas in when it gets, the float bulb starts getting too low, and just gives you a little extra gas. Why they didn't design the needle and seat to do that, I don't know, but that's the way it is. So if you are having flooding problems, try taking this out and putting the seat in there and see if that doesn't take care of it, because that is one of those things that happens a lot on this 4300. Okay, find a screwdriver in that. Okay, so if it doesn't flood, and it shouldn't, with the secondary seat in there, I like to put it in there. Alright, so next thing we'll put on is the hot idle compensator. This goes on vehicles with air conditioning, and what it's for is when you come to a stop, it lets a little extra air into the bowl and keeps it from overheating, or flooding I should say, boiling over. Okay. Figure out which screws go in here. Okay. Okay, so here's a retainer spring. We do carry these. We have them special made if you need one. And I situate it so that the end of it here sits over the check ball. It keeps it from coming out. And at the same time, don't bend it to where the, you just have to poke it down there. Okay, just be sure the spring is over the check ball, And the check ball does need to come up slightly, so when the pump comes up and it sucks the check ball off its seat and allows fuel to go in, there needs to be room for it to come up. They can get residue on it from the manufacturer, and well, it'll clean itself after a few starts, but if you want to be sure, wipe it off, get that residue off. Alright, so here's a float, and when we get ready to adjust the float level, this is the one you bend, and float drop this one here, or actually this is the secondary part. Okay, so here we go. We got the pin. Make sure the pin's not worn out. Got grooves in it, so it won't work right. And I'll just slide it in here. Sounded easy. Okay, what is the hold up here? Here we go. Okay. Alright, so as you notice I put in this way. I don't think it matters that much. Alright, so as I mentioned, this is going to be your float level here, and then this is for the secondary adjustment. Won't bend that. Do not bend your floats here. I know I'll mention this more than once. You'll break this seal here and cause all kinds of trouble. Also, you need these floats centered. See how this one's over on this side? These tend to swell when they get hot, and so if these are anywhere close to the edge, it's going to bind. And to adjust those, you bend right here. Just bend the metal, never the pontoons. Okay. So that's installing the float. Okay, I want to squeeze in putting the pump together and putting it in here. Put the returns, or the delayer spring I should say. It's not a return spring. And what a delayer spring does, it kind of slows the pump down when it goes up and down, so it doesn't jerk up, jerk down, etc. And it's going to go right in this hole right here. And just to keep it there while we're putting everything else together, we're going to put the pump arm in it right here. And we'll just slide this in through the slot just like so, and we'll just leave it like that. Okay, so before we put the rest of it together, we want to do a float level test and float drop. And it's critical that you get this correct, and be careful of these floats. Anytime you start bending them around, find something to point with, this right here will break easily. Now these are nitrofill and they're solid, well, they're porous, but they can absorb fuel. But there's also a plastic one, and if you break this seal, they will leak. Okay, you want these floats to be centered, and I see this one's off a little bit, and so what you want to do is bend it right here and bend it in with a little bit better than I have. Don't use the floats to bend it, just bend it right here until they're centered. Now the float level is different depending on the application. So in our carburetor kit, there's a spec sheet with a list of vehicles, and it gives you the setting. I'm going to set this one at 13/16. Now, I recommend everybody get a nice little metal ruler to measure with, but the kits do come with these little plastic ones, and you measure for the float level from the bowl here to the top of the float. Now remember, this is upside down, so it's actually the bottom of the float. So you want 13/16, and you want them both the same. Okay, both sides 13/16. And again, bend it right here. Or this right here. This is your little tab. Okay, that's where I would bend it. Now, don't put any pressure on your needle. I would recommend, if you're going to adjust it, is take the float out like so, and then bend this little tab right here to where you need it. Doesn't take much. Put it in, try it again. It's a little bit of a trial and error. And like I said before, it could be different depending on your application. So you're going to have to find the right spec. People ask me, well, what is it? That's a 4300. What's it set at? And I can't tell you. They're all different. Okay, I'm going to get the lousy float back in here. Okay, there you go. Now, the other one is, if you put in the secondary needle right here, then you want to measure this right in here, this gap with the float sitting down, and that should be 1/8 of an inch in this case, and it's right on. And again, this is what you would bend right here. Okay, so take your time on these adjustments and get them right. 4300s are notorious for flooding, etc., because of the floats. The floats will scrape the edge of the bowl here and bind or whatever. So the other thing is make sure you can go up and down on the float. Okay. Now the float needs to be on the float drop. This would be a drop like this. It needs to drop enough to let the needle out. To let gas in. You see there's quite a bit of gap in there right now, right here. So it's going to drop, but you don't want to drop so much that it gets cocked to one side or actually falls out. So the main thing is that it drops, and I don't care what you set it at, as long as it drops and allows gas in. Okay. Alright, so next thing would be the air valve and air spring. So this is why I go and review each piece of the video that I do to make sure I didn't mess something up. And lo and behold, I forgot to put the return spring in for the air valve here. It goes right in this hole, and the air valve kind of fits right on top of it. And that's something you want to watch for when you're putting the top on. Actually, put it on like that, and then it'll stay in there. Okay, so when we go to put the top on, we'll fish this in there. See if I can put the gasket on first. Okay, check, make sure we don't have any open areas. So that's what we'll do before we put the top on. Put the spring in, put the air valve in there, and then you'll need to grow another arm so that you can put the top on, fish this through the top, and also get your pump lined up without rolling it up. And it should go in there without any problem. Okay, just take your time, go easy. And so now we're going to put the air valve spring in, which I did right there in the air valve, and I fished it up through the hole right here. And then we're going to put on the float bowl gasket. So carefully put it in there where it belongs. And that looks like the wrong, something's wrong here. Oh, backwards, excuse me. Clumsy me. Okay. So, lesson learned. You want to be sure that you don't put a gasket on backwards, and as you've seen, there's a little loop here. It would left an opening and cause a leak. The gas would leak right there. So you got to watch your gaskets. Okay. So I like to spray my gaskets with, oh, let's see, where is it? Silver spray lubricant here. Okay. So before I put it on, it'd be best time, but you spray your gasket with it. Just makes them not get real hard, especially if you got to take the top off again. Next thing you want to do is make sure you got, spray some lithium grease or spread some on your pump cup right here. Also, you want to take your crocus cloth, if I haven't mentioned this before, and polish the inside of your accelerator pump well in here, and also get it in there and polish your air valve right there with the crocus cloth, which we do sell online. Alright, so next thing we will do, got the gasket on there, we're going to position the air horn. Now this takes a little doing because you got to get the pump in the right hole without curling it up, and the air valve in here, and I got to hold that so it doesn't drop down yet. Okay, like so, and I will fish the air valve. Oops, already it went in the right place. Okay, so I don't have to do a whole lot of fishing there. And the pump is in. Something's holding it up. It's not that. It's not the pump. Oh, it's this. Okay, forgot about this. Okay. There we go. There we go. Now it's down. Alright. So we got one long screw, which I have to figure out which hole that goes in. I think it's this one. Pump plunger and secondary. So long air horn retaining screw in the left rear hole. Okay, that would be this one here. Okay, so we're going to put in all the screws, and as I mentioned before, the long one goes in here. There's one long screw, I don't know why, but that's where it goes. Okay, get all the other screws in here lined up. Okay. Goes like so. And these kind of are two special screws that we use for this. So these parts cannot be purchased anywhere that I know of. And if you don't have one, I wouldn't sweat it too much. Nice to have, but it's basically for really hot days when you have your air conditioning on, you come to a stop. Vents the float bowl a little bit to keep it from boiling over. Okay, so this has a black rubber pump cup, which we will replace with a, so that it'll line up, and then feed it in there like so, and then you have to get it over here into the pump. Go. So we do stock these. We get them custom made. Probably won't find them anywhere else. This first is the long end. I'm going to put into the hole right here. That hole into the Dashpot. And then I'm going to grab this one, clear down here. Get plenty of room on the top. And then you got to fish the top into the hole in the rod here. Like so. Get in there. Okay, and then I push it behind the Dashpot. Okay, so there. So what it does, when you let off on the gas, it's going to facilitate moving the accelerator pump down. If it's not moving it, you either have something hooked up wrong. The rod might be rubbing something. Okay, we'll go through some adjustments at the end here, but that's that part right there. Okay, so my 4300 does not have an external vent valve like this picture shows. I want to insert this in the video so that you understand where it goes on the carburetor. It has a rubber valve here. That's included with our kit, so be sure you replace that with a new one. And you see the arm comes back here and hooks on with the pump arm with this pin right here. I think they call it a clevis pin, I'm not sure. Anyway, so you got 1, 2, 3 holes. Stick in the middle for now. Later in the video I show you how to adjust it. It all depends on your application. So I'm guessing that mine is a later model, and somewhere along the line because of the EPA they decided they can't vent the gas to the air. Okay, so the one I showed you is a closed system. Not sure how it vents. Probably goes back to some smoke device. Anyhow, in your data sheet it shows you the adjustment on this. It's probably around a 1/16 of an inch. Doesn't need to be much. So what you do is you open up the throttle, which allows this to open, and you measure from the top of the float ball to the rubber valve itself, and that's the measurement you're looking for. And this is where you, right here, is where you adjust it by bending this.
Okay, so that's it.
Secondary air valve linkage here, and first of all, this little rod here goes in here like it's got a little tit on it, so you got to fish it in the hole, but that's how it should end up. Okay, and then I'm going to slip it in this hole right here, or this tube, this way, just like so. Okay, and then I'm going to take the other end. I'm going to push the piston down because when it's all the way up it gets caught. There. Okay, so once we get it all together, so I put it in this way, just slide it, slip it in through the hole. Okay, so looks like that. Now, yeah, I'm stuck again. There we go. Alright, so we got this little pin. This one's kind of wore out, but you can get new ones if you need them. Oops, came out of the hole here. Came out of the slot. Get back in there. Okay. Goes down like this, so we'll run the pin through the hole. To dink around with it. There we go. Okay, so then make sure it's not binding anywhere. This kind of a pin, I'm not going to do it here, I don't want to break it. It's kind of a split at the end, and just widen the split so it doesn't come out. And so the choke and the choke valve, which operates it, and what we want to do is hold it about like that, this end up, and thread it through this hole right here, just like so, and we'll put it in the hole down here. Let me get it around. There we go. Okay, and then we get it through the hole right here. Okay, now got these little clips. There's only like 2 in the package, and I've already lost a half a dozen of them in here. They're hard to put on. Okay, so there's a groove on each end of this shaft, and this goes right in the groove. I got to keep my hand here because it's going to pop off and go who knows where. Okay. Okay, I think I got it on there. Anyhow, you get the idea. And it popped off. Okay, so I don't have any more of them right here. Anyhow, put a little clip on it and you see how it moves. Now, the throttle is stopping it. So open the throttle a little bit and make sure it closes. We have one kit, fits them all. Under technical tab there is a link for the instruction sheet, so you can download that and get the same thing I got here. So this here has 3 holes, and 1 is lean, 2 is standard, and 3 is rich, as you can see right here. Okay, now how do you know which one to put it in? You can do trial and error, but get this page out here. This comes with the instruction sheet. These are the specs. So find your vehicle by make and model, and right here is the pump pinch setting, and you see some are number 2, number 3, number 1, so it all depends on which vehicle you have. Okay, If your vehicle isn't listed here, and then it's going to be simply a guess. I would start out with it in the middle. About is the vent. Now this one doesn't have the vent. If it did, we would have installed this right here. Okay, so to adjust the vent, and the instructions are right here. And it's according to this, 1966 through 69 use this vent. So what you want to do is, first of all, make sure the throttle is all the way closed, and to do that you probably have to open up the choke. Okay, so throttle's closed, and then you want to measure you'll have to visualize this with the arm up. You're going to have a little bit of gap right here, and you're going to measure this gap right there. Okay, shows you right here. You're going to measure that gap, and again we have our spec sheet. Bowl vent valve right here. A lot of vehicles don't have one, but this one here is 1/16 to 5/64. Okay, so you can probably pretty much guess about a 1/16 and you're going to be good. So it's just a bowl vent. End 1/8 of an inch, and you want to put something in here to hold the throttle open somewhat. Doesn't have to be open all the way. Okay, hopefully you can see that good enough. Alright, so what you're measuring is the distance from here down to the top of the piston. So if you move that, first of all, I've got to hook up my linkage. I'm having trouble with this linkage. Take our time. Okay. We're going to move that up. So you have 1/8 of an inch till it hits that. You're just measuring 1/8 of an inch. And then you're going to measure the distance here. Okay. So again, we got to go to our chart. Let's see, choke valve pull down right here. So there's 3/16, there's 13/64, 11/64, etc. Now if you need to change that, you need to open it more, then bend it right here, bend it less, make less bend, and that will open this more. If you need to close it more, bend this so you have less, more bend. Okay. Now some of the instructions say to loosen this and and move this, but apparently I don't know. I guess I got a different carburetor than what the directions say. So, but from what I can say is so what you do is close your choke. And turn this. You already turned it. From where you set the choke, where it just closes, turn another 90 degrees. Okay, that really tightens it up. And then put your fast idle on the cam, the high part of the cam right there. And you measure the distance in here, and you can see it's not, it should be like, let's see, what is it? Back to the old data table again. So we have like 3/16, 7/64, etc. Okay, and to adjust it, and I can actually turn mine because I broke the tip off of it here. I'm going to have to take it apart and find another screw for it. But what you do is adjust it here, because it goes against a little flat part right there. And as you can see, when I push that down, it opens up a little bit. So you're going to measure down at the bottom. Okay. Okay, so the choke unloader, and what that is when you stomp on the gas, you need the choke, and it's cold, you need the choke to open a little bit to make sure it doesn't flood out. So the way that works is when you accelerate and you get to this certain point right here, you can see this little tab here, push up here on this plastic piece and opens the choke a bit. Okay, so right there. Alright, so you measure for 66 and 67, measure here like 9/64, and for all the 68 and later, measure in here the distance between the wall and the valve, and that should be 19/64 or close to it. So the whole idea is when you stomp on it like that, full throttle, it's going to open that choke a little bit so it doesn't choke out. Okay, so that's the name of that tune. Here, the end needs to go in this slot here on the thermostat. That's what moves the thermostat valve. So we're going to try and fish it on there. You know you got it on there if it turns. Right, there we go. Something wrong with this thing. Oh, I see what it is. Okay, so try that again. Like so. Okay. So when I get the screw started, now you may have some notches up here. Index, originally that's what you'd line up. The data sheet will tell you one past the index, one before the, all that kind of thing. And I quit using that several years ago for a couple of reasons. Number one, so many of these thermostats are retrofit these days. If they fit and move the choke, you use them. You just can't get the OE anymore. And the other thing is the carburetors are worn, you know, they're 50, 60 years old. So index marks I don't think are all that relevant anymore. So I just do it by feel, which seems to work for me. Leave it loose for a minute. So what we do is you may have to open your throttle a little bit. We twist it counterclockwise until the choke closes, the choke valve here. I'm going to go another 1/8 turn, give it a little bit of like that, a little bit of preload. If you find your choke valve seems to be stuck, you probably have your throttle open, closed I mean, which keeps the fast idle on. Okay, so that's how you do the thermostat. Pretty simple. I almost forgot to tell you, I did forget, is to adjust this unloader thing here, is you bend this tab down here, which is not going to be easy to do, but this is what you got to bend down here. Okay, one more adjustment, probably the last one here, is the secondary lockout. So when your choke is closed and you're punching the gas, you do not want your secondaries open. You'll get too much air that way. So when the choke is closed, let me close it, okay, this is going to fall down. That's the position it should be with the choke closed. Okay, this just kind of hangs loose here, so make sure it's, you might have to buff this a little bit to make it nice and smooth. So you can see here where it locks it out and won't let the secondary open. Okay, so when the choke opens, right here, see how it pulls that back? Do that again. Choke opens, Pulls that back, allows the secondaries open when it's warm. So to adjust that, you just bend this tab right here. Okay, and that's it. Completes the rebuild of this Autolite, sometimes referred to as a Motocraft 4300 carburetor. We appreciate you watching our videos, and please visit our site. Just search for Mike's Carburetor Parts and it'll come up, and there you will find a lot of technical information as well as many parts for the 4300. Thank you again.